It's Friday, Feedback Friday, the feedbackiest day of the week. It's Feedback Friday. And, hello. I'm tired. It's been a long week. Especially since every single one of my videos this week got limited ads on them because they were discussions of anything involving the female body. That's how YouTube rolls. Even though my videos are marked not for kids, we can show brutal violence in gameplay, but not talk about body parts using their proper names. Nothing I can do about it. That's the rules of YouTube. So help support this channel. Become a monthly patron. Patreon.com/LeannaK. And I suspect it's not even YouTube. I suspect it's their damn Puritan advertisers. I'm not sure why someone would advertise on a platform like YouTube that it's kind of a free-for-all if you're that worried about the content your brand is connected to. But we all know, based on the Wall Street Journal article, yes, they are. And Momo's here. So that's why if you see, I'm brushing him. So if you see like weird movements, that's what it is. Okay, there were a lot of comments this week. A lot. And so I'm not entirely sure where to begin except to say, boss fight backers and patrons, don't forget about tonight. Don't forget about tonight. Reminder, cryptic reminder. For people who are new to this channel, when I do crowdfunded stuff, I make sure that there's a lot of participation for the backers. Because I think that's, on a Kickstarter, you don't get profit participation in something, so you should get some sort of participation. You should get some sort of like enhanced access or an ability to take part or something like that. And it shouldn't just be for people who have, a few $100 or a few $1,000s to drop. It should be for people who are just really enthusiastic as well. So I worked that in. Now, and then people who do have the money, they use it and they back at the, $300 and $500 tiers, and it all works out. Gaming's great that way. So with the Johnny Depp, update, I really appreciate like the fan sites and the people who are very, very active on that issue for totally understanding where it was coming from in terms of, I will update when there's hard evidence. When there's a major thing, the rumors and the stuff, they were totally cool with that. So that's awesome. There was a lot of very emotional stuff that came out in the comments. And I can always tell when someone's being emotional because the words, like, it's clear it came out in a torrent. They were writing it very quickly. It's not really checked for spelling or grammar or run-on sentences, and it tends to circle around a few key sort of emotional points. And I think it's important to get that out. And that's all I really like. I think people need a place where they can talk about their legitimate feelings on an issue and just be able to know someone read it and know someone gave a damn, even if they didn't agree. Like they didn't agree with me. When I ask, what do you guys think? I'm not going to come back swinging if you disagree with me. Like, I have asked for feedback, right? That would be dumb. So it was, I don't even have the words for this. There are clearly a lot of people affected by situations like this. There are a lot of people who feel like they've been treated extremely unfairly. And I don't think that the current very strident solutions are doing anyone much good. So I can't personally do much about it other than sort of continue the conversation, to sort of use critical thinking and, not fall into pedantic kind of strident all or nothing zero sum positions, and Momo being very cute. So maybe that's why Momo's here, because there's a lot of feels, right, Momo? A lot of feels. Okay. So moving on to the other videos, I'm briefly just gonna say, because there's just a lot of agreement on the Power Fantasy memes one. I do want to say that there was sort of a lost in translation thing with the thumbnail, and I apologize for that. I was having trouble getting the text in, and it was very late, and I wasn't clear in what I was trying to communicate. When I said memes like this, I didn't mean to say the meme that was shown, because that meme was a parody of memes like this. But that's the problem with satire and parody. To somebody who doesn't have context, it can look indistinguishable from the thing it's parodying, right? But at first, when I first saw the meme, it was sent to me through Telegram. I didn't know who, it was just the picture. I didn't know who sent it. And I did go on Twitter and say, hey, I don't know whose this is. Please tell me if you do. It took a couple days to confirm. But then I noticed when I was going through comments, that the guy who drew the meme, DeputyRusts, which I did put, but, he commented, so I want to read his comment, because fair is fair. I used his art with Thick Ladies, which I approve. He said the context behind that came from previous drama in September, when there's a lot of people trying to police how women were drawn. Tons of corrections saying, do this, no that, in condescending ways with phrases like, why are men, about how clothes mold around men. I made the meme to make fun of those memes, the original title being an observation. The whole point is people who police art of gals looking slightly bigger than a B or C cup never went after anatomical inaccuracies in men. I just kept saying women made curvy were purely sexual, even though women make a lot of art like that. A lot of people loved it, got a lot of attention. Drama similar to it blew up again round this time, decided to repost it. Somehow it got more attention than back in September and made its way here. I got so sick and tired of exaggeration being seen as sexualization and only this weird double standard when it came to male figures. And it turned out he liked the video. So, there we go. And I think it's only fair, like, it was a good comment, and I'm glad he was able to explain his intent behind it. And that's the nice thing about Feedback Friday, right? There's a format for this, and it's cool. Like, I have another artist to follow. The internet's great in this way. So thanks, DeputyRust, and thanks for being cool about the use of your work. Even though it took me a few days to track it down and keep doing cool stuff. I agree. I think that the conflation with exaggeration and sexualization is lacks nuance to the point that it is misleading. Kind of like not enough words were misleading in the thumbnail. I have a real hard time figuring out how to name videos and what to put in thumbnails because of the conservation of language, and the issues I tackle tend to be complex. And when there's a person involved, it's like, oh, here's why this person is right, or here's why this person is wrong. Easy, right? But when it comes to an issue like that, coming up with something kind of eye-catching and brief, things get lost in translation. So there we go. Clearing that up. The Iroha Sharkstantine, as I called them, video, I wasn't sure how much attention that was going to get. And if you were on watching me play Nier Automata on Twitch, finished Route A yesterday. But if you saw me, I was really struggling about how to contextualize, how to do something about the issue in a way that there was something provable. And the issue with the Iroha controversy and the Twitter account from the game and Samurai Showdown and stuff like that, it was all just a lot of subjective opinion, right? There was nothing to stick to. And that's when, oh, okay, there's a very different reaction to this other relationship. And Now, one person in comments, and I thought this was fair, a counterpoint. I think there is something a little uncomfortable about people being openly thirsty for something that you have absolutely no thirst for. I don't think either the thirsty or the not thirsty people are in the wrong to express themselves on that front if no one's being hurt. They go on to say, I'm also in the camp that thinks the self-censoring of the Twitter account was most likely a publicity stunt to get people talking about Samurai Showdown for what it's worth. I don't like to assume that stuff, but I can see why you'd think that. It's funny because when I was playing Nier, it was a funny moment at the end of Route A because a bunch of people in the Twitch chat saw things as kinky that I just didn't. And I said as much, and there was sort of a joke of, hey, no kink shaming. And I don't know. This is a really subjective thing. I don't mind when people really enjoy something. I don't. Like we had a whole discussion about Doctor Who as well, which, you know, I kind of dropped off early in the Capaldi run and never came back. But then people went on talking about how great they thought Capaldi was, and some people didn't like the 13th Doctor, and these are all just, people are allowed to like stuff, people are allowed to not like stuff. The issue was the idea that, what do we do when people are offended? And that's a difficult thing because on the one hand, we have the moral argument. On the other, we have the public relations argument. And, you know, then there's the whole censorship by proxy or essential censorship. It's not actually, you know, dictionary definition censorship because it's not the government doing it. But it gets complicated on those because there's so many right versus right choices. Another commenter talked about the fact that you know, Lakitties is I think the name. I like the name. But basically that they get thirsty for like digital characters, video game characters. They said it was like sort of pathetic, but they've never treated a real life woman with disrespect, or they've never felt disrespectfully towards a real life woman, and extrapolated on why that may be. And I've been looking into this of late, and apparently, I'm still waiting to confirm this, apparently there really is no correlation between sort of the relationships people have with otherwise like functional and not weird, I shouldn't say not weird, not already dangerous people, the relationships they have with fictional characters, the way they talk about fictional characters and real women. I mean, I think there's some adolescent trauma in terms of that. I mean, the only experience I have with the whole thing is when I was in high school. Kate Moss was popular, and at that point I was in like competitive dance and stuff like that, and so I was the exact opposite of Kate Moss. I was like, I was quite muscular. I look at my legs from back then. You know how like Simone Biles and you know the other U.S. gymnastics team look? I look kind of like that, only larger in the chest. So I looked nothing like this it girl, and I didn't have any counter messaging that, okay, this is good, you're also good. The message was only one thing can be good at any one time. And not just good, acceptable, of worth, right? And it's that message that only one thing is allowed to be good that does a number on people. It's not, I like this. It's that I like this and you should like this and you're not allowed to like this. And if you like this other thing, it's somehow bad. I hope you see the difference between the two things, and how one is just expressing an opinion and another is almost, you know, coercion through shame. And there's a lot of coercion through shame that goes on in the discourse right now on numerous fronts. And that's not healthy. I don't think, I mean, is it uncomfortable for me when people are being kind of openly thirsty about something? It really depends on the context, you know? Like, if it's when I used to cover wet t-shirt contest down in Panama City Beach. Yeah, I did that. And the guys were all hooting and hollering for the women up on stage. That was the whole point of the exercise. Was it uncomfortable? Well, no, because everybody was there voluntarily. These were women who wanted to be center of attention, and everybody was buying $9 drinks that were mostly ice. And okay, capitalism. It was the context. That whole thing of construction workers catcalling women on the street, that's a totally different thing, right? One, the woman's in on it. The other one, definitely not. She's minding her own business, and construction workers decide to be pigs about it. They're different. They're different paradigms, right? And I think that as long as everybody's in on it, and that's the problem with Twitter, is that yes, you're putting stuff out there for your followers, but anyone can see it. And it's kind of like that. I mean, I've seen so much outright porn on Twitter that I guess I'm sort of immune to it. I think it's fair for somebody to say it makes them personally uncomfortable. Saying something makes somebody uncomfortable is not saying it's wrong. Then the question is, what do you do about it? Does everybody have to stop? Or is it, I'm just going to go, like, forgive me if I don't participate. Like, I don't want to see this. Thanks. This is weird to me. And I think that where people tend to get upset is when it goes from not my thing to everybody has to stop, and it's difficult with gaming because some of the big game companies have really blown it regarding that kind of thing. When I do my college talk, I show some ads from 2013 from the UK when the Xbox One and the PS4 launched, and they were pretty exclusionary. Like, they were certainly sort of based on the idea that video game consoles are for men and women need to sort of be talked into, or they don't really like it. Instead of it being, no, this is for everybody. Here's some games that some tastes will like. Here's other games that other tastes will like. And it was badly done. And I think that, those obviously aren't the console makers. Those are the individual ad agencies that they hired for that market, and those agencies blew it. And I think, unfortunately, that happens so often that some people became extremely sensitive to that. And the question is, what do we do about it? And I admit, I don't know where the line is. I think it really depends on the game. And it was interesting because I'm not terribly familiar with this franchise. So, some people were saying the issue is the character sticks out like a sore thumb. And it's like, all right, but my understanding, it's like a season 2 thing. It's like a DLC thing. Sometimes it's cool that characters stick out like a sore thumb. I mean, Yoda in, what was it, Soul Calibur 3, Soul Calibur 4, like totally out of place in the game. But it wasn't because, it was a meaningful part of the universe. It was like, it's Yoda in a Soul Calibur game. The guest characters have always been sort of a part, and when they're kind of silly or out of place, it's part of the thing. Japanese games don't tend to have the expectation that they make as much clear sense. Like, everything isn't explained as Western games. And I think in some ways it's okay to let a player fill in the blanks. That's kind of fun in a lot of ways. Some people just don't want to do the work. But I know I'm umming a lot because I'm thinking as I go, because I'm trying not to offend anybody, because people have the right to their opinions. But that means everybody has the right to their opinions. And the internet has created this weird thing where what's a public space and what's a private space, what's an adult space, what's an all ages space, the lines blur. And bad actors aside, which they exist, that blurring of the lines is something we got to kind of figure out. But I think a fighting game where people are kind of beating the crap out of each other, and that's the whole point. And if it's a pre-existing character, I don't know. I tend to lean toward, and again, like, it's an opinion. I can kind of see how some people wouldn't want an official account for something going on about how people are thirsty and words that read more bluntly to some English audiences, like English-speaking audiences. But again, you know, poor taste is not morally wrong, you know, or a bad choice of words is not morally wrong. And people showed me some things with that account. It was an ongoing thing with that account, that wasn't the first time they'd made comments like that, about like not safe for work stuff and stuff like that. So, you know, with Twitter, if something's not to your taste, then just don't follow the account, right? People have to be allowed to do things that are not to your taste. And then we get into that gray area of, well, what's just not to your taste and then what's offensive? And I'm going to tell you my rule. This isn't like my line. It doesn't have to be anybody else's. To me, you cross over to not to my taste to that's offensive, where you can actually provide a justification for why it's offensive. For instance, I was actually put off. I was offended by the assertion by the Mortal Kombat devs that their previous incarnations of female characters were somehow disrespectful and now they're being more respectful. Because I wouldn't put money into a game franchise that I thought was knowingly disrespecting women. I thought it was celebrating female power, and to find out that, you know, there was some consciousness of guilt there. No, they're getting no more of my money. I can explain that. When someone just says, I feel excluded, that's not enough. You have to be able to say why. And if it's just, you know, because you kind of got to dig deep on certain things like this, the competitiveness that women, especially women of a certain age, have with each other, it's really real, you know, and some women even get competitive with fictional characters. And I think it's part of becoming more mature that you can identify that in yourself and squash it flat, because that's not fair to the other person, the other being, you know, the other character. You got to have enough sense of self that if somebody is not actively going, you're bad, you know, or people like you are bad, you can't feel like you're not welcome because somebody else is, or a different type of person is temporarily getting more attention. Did that make any sense? Maybe it's something that can be unpacked a bit more. Let me know what you think. I know what I'm going to do for Monday's video, but after that, I'm not sure. I'm in the home stretch of Boss Fight episode 1. It's been a lot more work than I thought it would be, just because I want to get the production values up from Lady Bits, but it's a lot more work. It's a lot more editing. It's a lot more fixing. It's a lot more cleanup than I hoped it would be. So that's what's going on. Brief update. But patrons, Kickstarter backers, tonight, check your email. Okay, everybody. Help support this channel. Become a monthly patron. Patreon.com/YannaK. If you want to get in right away to be a part of this. Thanks for watching.